There we go. Now we go to screen share. Padah, share. All right, this lesson will be fairly quick, but it gets to the point, it gets this point across. It's only a couple chapters, so I just want to welcome all those who are going to watch this later after we post it. My name is Aki Ori, and this is today's lesson from Bayith, Padah, Ibriym. May this be a pleasant and sweet savor to the Yahuwah Sabaoth, as I go over this lesson. And, I hope everybody watching enjoys it. As you can see, the title says, just be steadfast in your faith. Because this is like, basically at the beginning of what will eventually become the beginning of the lineage of Israel. And it's just a reminder that even when the Most High gives you a promise, you still have to be steadfast in your faith for that promise to start to follow through and for you to start to see fruition in it. But here we go. I'm just go ahead and say the motto on my own because we're not in the same room, so we don't have any synchronization issues. But 1, 2, 3. We are learning to walk through obedience to the Torah together, building in Ahava and Anva from the Ab to the Elad and Ruach Yeshua ben Yahuwah. There we go. And then, believe and you can achieve, or not. You're going to see examples of that in this lesson today. Let's see. What led to Ishmael's birth? And we're picking up at Genesis chapter 16.
Would you say that it was because Sarah wanted a baby so bad? She was impatient.
Exactly. Good answer. Ding, ding, ding. Who wants to get Genesis 16, 1 through 8?
I'll do it. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, since you answered the question.
Okay, I'll get it. Let me just pull it up real quick. I apologize for not being ready. Okay, Genesis 16, 1 through 8. Now Sarai, Avram's woman, bore him no children, and she had a handmaid and a mystery, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, Yahuwah has restrained me from bearing. I pray you, go into my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Avram's woman, took Hagar, her maid, to the mystery, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan.
Just Canaan. The land of
Canaan, and gave her to her man Abram to be his woman. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarai said unto Abram, My wrong be upon you. I have given my maid into your bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Yahuwah judge between me and you. But Abram said unto Sarai, Behold, your maid is in your hand. Do to her as it please you. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. Sorry, you said till 8, right? Okay. And the angel of Yahuwah found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to Sur. And he said, Hagar, Sarai's maid, whence came you, and whither will you go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress, Sarai, or Sarah.
You're correct. And so as you see here, because of the lack of faith of both, we'll say Sarah, but also the impatience, we'll say the impatience of Sarah and the lack of forethought or patience for Abraham or Abraham. We get Ishmael, which is known to be what you would consider, a mixture of part of the modern day Arab nations and darker skinned Nubian races that subscribe to Islam. So this is where you see where we get the first confrontation in the Bible of who's supposed to receive what inheritance from who, according to Yahuwah. But as you'll see, as we continue to read on, that it is according to Scripture, just biblically in general, that yes, the firstborn, especially if it's a firstborn son, is to get an inheritance and a double portion of whatever said inheritance. But as we'll read that that earthly inheritance that a firstborn child is supposed to receive is not the exact same as the covenant that will be cut with Abraham later. But let's go ahead and go to the next question. What was the reward for enduring the mistreatment of Sarah or Sarai? What was the reward?
I can answer that. Well, the reward for enduring the mistreatment of Sarai, you're talking about Hagar. Yes. Because I mean, so many issues as she was reading it. I'll give you the answer at the end, but so many things came into my mind because women just had it. To me, women had it hard back then because you're somebody's mistress, and it's not just in the Israelite culture; it's in cultures around the world that the women that were around the wives and stuff were required to be virgins, just in case it was somebody that you did give to your man. So you didn't have a say in if you were given to somebody, if you were a maid or somebody. And so I guess I don't know why she would despise. Well, I guess I kind of do understand why she would despise her, because she made me go and sleep with your husband who was probably really old. But anyhow, the reward for Hagar is the Most High gave the blessing of 12 of the kingship to Isaac, but unto Ishmael he was given the blessing of being princess in the world. I mean, if you go and you look and read scripture from I guess in the Bible and also other scriptures, it will tell you that the Most High still did bless him because it was Abraham's seed, and it was still a kind of a royal thing, but it was also always gonna be the lesser of what Isaac received.
Yeah, you're correct, because even now, like over in the Arabian Peninsula, you got most time I hear Saudi princes. I really hear the term Saudi king.
Right. They do have kings, but they're mostly, Israel was given the kingship, and Ishmael was given the prince. They were made into princes. So, they were.
Yep. And because it wasn't, I guess you could say, because it wasn't considered an official union or official marriage type of relationship, just like
it wasn't ordained by the Most High. I mean, Sarah was impatient, although she said, this be, may the Most High judge between you and me. Actually, it was her error. It was her error. I never would have sent some other woman into my husband willfully, willingly. And then, I just didn't. She didn't believe the Most High. And that was our foremothers, her issue. And now because of that, we have Ishmael in the world today. And people don't realize that there are consequences. Even myself, I do things that are so stupid even today, and there are consequences to it. We don't realize that she made a bigger consequence, because now we're people that are suffering because of the consequence and the decision that she made way back when.
Correct. And because of that, she caused her own self to err, right? She caused herself to err in jealousy. Like if she'd just been patient, if there would have been no need for her to fall in the error of jealousy and then mistreat another human and stuff like that. You know, and that standing relationship that they had before Hagar got pregnant could have remained as, you know, simple, you know, maid servant and I guess what's the proper term for the person that's over the maid servant? Maid servant
Mistress?
and mistress, yeah. Yeah, maid servant mistress. But you know, now it's complicated, right? Just like some sort of daytime TV drama. And now we've been dealing with that complication for what, like 3,000 plus years.
Yeah.
Right? But let's read the scripture that confirms so. What was the reward? Genesis 16:9 through 16.
Okay, can I read that?
Go right ahead.
Okay, and it says, the angel of Yahuwah said unto her, return to your mistress and submit yourself under her hands. And the angel of Yahuwah said unto her, I will multiply your seed exceedingly, that it shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of Yahuwah said unto her, behold, you are with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Yishmael, because Yahuwah has heard your affliction. And he will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand shall be against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brethren. And she shall call the name, and she called the name of Yahuwah that spoke unto her, El Roi, for she said, have I also here looked after him that sees me. Wherefore the well was called Beer, La Lakha Roi. Behold, it is between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Avram a son, and Avram called his son's name, which Hagar bore, Yishmael. And Avram was 86 old, and Hagar bore Yishmael to Abraham. So he was 86 years old, and this was her maid. Who knows how old? And you really can't say anything, about age, but I'm like, she was probably a young girl. And well, but our people looked pretty good back then
Yeah, it's
still.
like even it,
So
like the food was just better for everybody. You know, everybody
yeah,
looked better back then. Everybody did.
yeah. So that probably wasn't an issue. It's just I don't know, I don't know. I guess because I'm born in this day and this age, I might have an issue, but back in those days, maybe it wasn't, but we're still women, and we're still jealous. So I hope I would never have done anything like that. But, I'm saying it because I'm here in today's present life. I don't know how I would have been back then, because the standard of a woman was to bear children. And if she didn't bear children, then there was, she was shunned, and there was like something inferior about her to all women. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, from a standpoint of, like just the scriptures as a whole are, it's geared towards men. And then you got to think, what Moses writes the first 5 books. Moses hadn't even come about yet. So if she's not, inquiring of Abraham on a daily about Yahuwah, trying to get to understand his ways and stuff like that, it's I can see how it's kind of like, well, I mean, my husband's doing this. We got it pretty good. We're rich. So, but this whole bearing children thing at 75 plus years old, I'm not, down with that. I don't really get that. But like you said, so I can see how it would be difficult to be like, especially, the angel of the Lord comes to Abraham when he's 75 and says, hey, multitude of nations are gonna come from your seed. I'm like, okay, that sounds great, but I'm like, I'm 75. Though we know before this point, multiple, multiple what you would consider descendants of mankind and specifically Israel are having children at much older ages. But you got to still at this point, like humanity's on the downturn in terms of the years they're living and things like that. Even though Abraham still lives quite a long time when it comes to the end of it, but still, it's kind of like, I'm getting a late start, but he does have all these resources, so the Most High is allowing him to build all that up. and then eventually, the opportunity for Isaac comes along. But that even still, it's crazy that like how long he had to wait on Yahuwah, because Yahuwah, gives him a dream right at 75, and lets him know what's gonna happen, but he doesn't start enacting it and start, having seed come forth until almost 25 years later. At least his first child, who's not within the bloodline that he prophesied of, is not till 86. That's crazy.
I didn't think about it until I just, like was said that back then, there was a certain way and certain order that you did things and women thought in a certain way, but I didn't think anything of it until you had mentioned it, Sherman. And now having read it, and he said, that the maid, that was her maid, and it was basically her will to do as she wanted to in regards to her after she had said, oh, she despised me. And he says, well, she's your maid and it's in your hands and you got to do this. Makes me think that she wasn't like a concubine of any kind, literally a maid. So she probably was very young, and once she was pregnant, there was probably no chance for her to leave and be someone's wife. That to me would make sense. I would think if someone was a servant of yours, once she came of a certain age, they probably could dowry her off to a man to be someone's wife. But because she was selfish, well, I'm not going to say selfish, impatient, and allowed her husband to impregnate, who's going to allow their child to go off to some other man, especially back then? So she probably felt, now you have made me, I am now yours always, and I will not have the pleasure of being someone's wife or someone's first wife or whatever the case may have been then.
Yeah, I never thought
And
of that.
I could see that being why she despised her as a woman, because like you said, the pride and joy of a woman was to be someone's wife and to bear children.
Yeah.
But if you're bearing this man's child, you ain't going nowhere, because now you have to be under his roof,
Right.
not have your
Forever.
own husband.
And the thing that's really, because if by reading scripture, and for a woman it was really really hard, and I'm not going to keep harping on it, but it was really hard, because not only in our culture but other cultures, a man could put you away, and once he puts you away, you're put away, and you are put away, and you can't go to anybody else. Nobody else will have you because you're unclean. You're not a virgin. And that's not only in our culture. I can look at the Asian cultures too, because I see it all the time. I do a lot of research with them as well. And I'm like, the man might marry you. You don't produce any children within 2-3 years. And he's like, I don't want to be with you anymore. And if you try to go with somebody else, because they're a little bit different, nobody really wants you because they only want a virgin, so I mean, your virginity is gone.
I can't remember exactly what culture it was, because Southeast Asian is what comes to mind, but I want to say whatever culture is the one that they identify as somewhere in the Middle East, men were literally abusing some of these women. And then they, it says, even in their culture, it says if you don't want the wife, you're supposed to return to the family. And they weren't doing that. They were abusing the women. Or like you said, they were putting them away for some other younger woman, which in scripture it literally says you're not supposed to put away the wife of your youth for
That's
another woman.
All cultures. All cultures, because I mean,
oh
it was
gosh,
done in
we
our
know that's a big
well.
thing in America, right? That like during the 80s and the early 90s, literally men were marrying the younger version of their wife. That was crazy. Seriously, how many of those Lifetime movies back then were based on with men putting away their wife of their youth for literally the younger version of their wife, and then unfortunately someone dies. Well, they're really killed, but you know how that's Lifetime for you. That was like the whole baseline of Lifetime movies. But yeah. So I didn't think about that until we were reading it now, that may have come into play with her, maybe with the one desire of a young lady having a husband and going off making their own family. All those hopes and dreams were gone when she was carrying his child. So,
And the Most High understood this and took care of her because, if
mm-hmm,
they listened to the Most High entirely, she would have still had her opportunity to, have a husband. But
mm-hmm.
it is, she's grafted into Abraham's line now. And I'm pretty sure we got some speckled birds in her bloodline that'll find this truth and, join us eventually. But
Yeah.
everything worked out according to Yahuwah's plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Mess it up. Um, what's the age Abram received his name change and Isaac's birth? Like, this is kind of like, I ain't gonna lie, like this part of the Bible is kind of skipped over a lot, when we growing up, and I didn't necessarily know for myself. Like, you don't really start calculating all these numbers because you just immediately hear, okay, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob.
I'm not sure. Was he 99?
Yeah, that's correct. But well, you'll see when we read it, how he was when he is, and he actually has Isaac. The internet connection unstable. Okay, it looks like it fixed itself. So
Yeah, you went out for a moment, but you're back in. We can hear you.
okay, good. That's good. That was like weird. But who wants to get Genesis 17, 1 through 21?
I'll read that one.
After this question, we got one more, and that's it. I mean,
1 through 21.
yes, ma'am. This
Okay.
is really like the days of our lives type part of scripture.
Days of our life. Yeah, all right. Bereshit, Genesis 17, 1 through 21. And when Avram was 90 years old and 9, Yahuwah appeared to El Avram and said unto him, I am El Shaddai. Walk before me and be perfect, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face, and Elohim talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be a father of many nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham, or Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made you. And I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you in their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim unto you and to your seed after you. And I will give unto you and to your seed after you the land wherein you are a stranger, all the land of Canaan for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. And Elohim said unto Abraham, You shall guard my covenant, therefore you and your seed after you in their generations. This is my covenant, which ye shall guard between me and you and your seed after you. Every male child among you shall be circumcised, and ye shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a sign of the covenant betwixt me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male child in your generation. He that is born in the house or bought with money of any stranger, which is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with money. Why is this repeated? I apologize. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the circumcised male, whose flesh of his foreskin is not circumcised, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. And the Elohim said unto Abraham, As for Sarah, your woman, you shall not call her name Sarai. But I apologize. As for Sarai, your woman, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her and give you a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. And Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? And Abraham said unto Elohim, Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. And Elohim said, Sarah, your woman shall bear you a son indeed, and you shall call him Yitzchak, or Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you before. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year.
There you go, the example. So this in actual practicality, if if the rest of the other nations that aren't Israel, and even Israel itself,
Oh,
would
there's a little in and out.
yeah, we wouldn't have the the three major Abrahamic beasts between us, because it clearly states that yes, Ishmael shall be blessed, right? He was given his inheritance for being the firstborn, but the covenant is a totally separate thing. Now, as we'll go on to the last question, like I said, this will be a fairly quick day. There's only so much drama we can take.
Can I add one thing? Not add, but point out rather in the word in 17:7, where he says, because I know that a lot of those of us, especially that come out of Christianity, but there are some that come from a specific religious background that believe that the Old Testament is of Yah, and that's the old God, and the new God is Jesus or Yahushua, he's of the New Testament, and they believe that you can graft everybody in. But yet here in 17:7 it says, between me and you and your seed after you in generations for an everlasting covenant.
Yeah.
And some people like to say, oh well, they think of the new covenant as meaning we're moving the old covenant out the way, as opposed to I'm renewing this contract because y'all messed up that first one.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly correct. Like as we stated, I mean, it's called what? What would you call it? What do we call the first 5 books? Torah. Torah is
Torah,
just
the law, yeah.
word for what? Instruction. So why would he throw out the instructions?
Exactly.
New Testament. It's like, hey, here's how to build a car. Okay, I see you guys kind of messed it up the first time. I'm gonna revise some instructions, but don't pay attention to the basics. Like, no, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Right. And can I say this? Because, I got my bachelor's in theology, and I received my bachelor's in theology at a Catholic university. And that was with a bunch of attorneys and with a lot of Jesuit priests.
I was going to ask you if they were Jesuit.
They were.
That
They
makes
were
a
Jesuit
difference.
priests.
Yeah.
They were with Jesuit priests that actually, met the Pope and stuff like that, and were married into whatever it is they're married into, because they had, some of them had rings on. So and I knew it after, because I came into the truth actually while I was in college. So I remember in one of the classes, and I can't think of what the name of it was, but we were doing parallels in scripture. And I remember the professor, he was an actual priest. He was like, he would say God. So he would say God has what is it, plan A, and he has plan B. So they truly do believe that they're the Old Testament Elohim is a different Elohim than the Elohim of the New Testament, because they talked about how mean the first one was, but now the new one is very accepting, and
more
very
loving and accepting. God. Yes.
And they also taught us that, and while I was in school, I never believed anything they said, because I was always rooted, even if I had have just been a Christian, I was rooted in, I knew who the Most High was, period. So they would tell us stuff like, you know, the plan A and the plan B, and you know, that it was the old God and the new
Mm-hmm.
God, and
Mm-hmm.
how it was a replacement theology,
Mm-hmm.
because the Israelites, as far as they were concerned, had
Yep.
mixed through generations of people, and actually they had meshed with so many different people, they had actually been wiped out. So there really were no more Israelites anyway. It was always going to be the church. So people don't realize, they don't know who the Most High is at all. They
Yeah.
have a whole
Yeah.
different theology of their own. So
Mm-hmm.
everything you said, Nina, was true.
Yeah. 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 And it's not, I don't want to say that they can't take responsibility for that, but just like us, we were taught through different schools and different versions of that same teaching.
Right.
So we had to come out of it. Yah allowed it to be, and for those others, he will allow it to be also for those that it's, you know, it's for them, and they will
Uh-huh.
see also. But yeah, that was a very intentional. I think it was intentional on their part, because that was their way to wiggle into the covenant.
Right.
And I think it was intentional also,
Well, it
in
is
which you probably already
intentional.
know that. Yeah, for government reasons, right? We have to find a
Right.
way for these people, because if they don't believe that they're going to be saved, they're not going to act right. So there's different reasons why they did what they did. There were
Right.
benefits to them
There was.
doing that. Yeah.
And we don't realize that there is more in debt, because, you know, we know that we read the word, we read Yah's word, but if you really go into history, and I mean, the things that I was taught, it's so extensive that some I don't even recall, but as I, you know, think about it, I do recall some things. There's different monastic priests. There's different things that they
Mm-hmm.
believe. I mean, you would
Yeah.
be shocked at the things that people did in order to gain their salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Salvation is something that you have to fight for and gain. I mean, you had some of the priests that would stand on poles, and they would sit there on poles for days in order to, and these were holy people for them. The midrash is something totally different from what we know the midrash to be.
Mm-hmm.
They delve into other different cultures and other different religions. Um, if you really, really understand, the Most High gave me a great understanding when I was there, that when we talk about that, all religions come from the Catholic Church, they literally all come from
Yes.
this beast system.
Literally.
Every
They
single
really
last
do.
one of them. Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
the church that we were all once a part of, is actually a part of the Catholic Church. Everything that the Christian church does comes from within
Yes.
what the Catholic Church did. And I mean, everything, because I mean, everything, all of the their church fathers who broke away, whether it's Luther, whether it's
Or Protestant, or
every
yeah.
single last one of them broke away, but they still took an element of the Catholic Church with them and formulated the Protestant churches. They still brought the Catholic Church with them, a part of it. It never, it, you know, they did it a different way, but they still brought the Catholic Church with them. So when they call it a universal church, it's
It
all
literally
universal,
is. Mm-hmm.
because it really is, really is. Even with your monks, if you knew where your monks came from, if you knew where the nuns actually came from, if you knew, these are
Mm-hmm.
all out of all of these different things, it's all stemming from the Catholic Church,
Yes.
period. All of it. So even Muslims, it's
Yes.
all from off the Catholic Church. So
Which pope, but it was like one pope actually sanctioned the creation of Islam. That's
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's true.
when you have our Israelites who don't know who they are. They they leave Christianity because they figure out something's not 100% right, but then they
Yeah.
all run another ditch into Islam or Kemet, and you're like, 'It's the same. It's the same.'
Yeah.
It's just
It really is.
and like the ones that run to Islam, like, bro, have you seen what Muhammad the Prophet, or what was the guy in modern day that was like back in the 70s during Malcolm X's time?
Farrakhan.
Farrakhan. What was the guy before Farrakhan? He looked like a white dude, and I'm like,
It was
y'all
Elijah. It was Elijah Muhammad. Elijah.
like y'all running
Yeah.
from Jesus into another white man. What are y'all talking about? Talking about, well, white Christianity ain't for us. Like, look at like that. That's not a.
You're like, are you looking? Yeah.
I'm like, y'all so colorblind. You're like, y'all so fixated on color that y'all ran right to the same.
Yeah.
Y'all ran right to the same shit, the guy that that you said you was running from. And then,
Yeah.
I had a cousin years ago, like 2 cousins, like when I was a kid. I used to be real cool with them. Something happens, their dad falls into, listening, gets caught up into listening to like Louis Farrakhan and them, right? And they end up becoming Muslim. And then I don't see those 2 cousins and one of them until like I'm basically an adult, like graduating high school or just started college. And one of the sons is gay. Like, and it was like, where did this come from? Because he was a normal little boy.
That's interesting. Being a Muslim, coming from the Muslim side, I'm surprised.
Yeah, and he had a son, and I guess they had adopted a child or something like that. And I'm like, where did this come from? He was a normal little boy when I was playing with him all the time at my aunt Heather's house back when I was a kid in Oklahoma, in Spencer, Oklahoma. And then next time I see him when he was an adult, he's gay. I'm like, well, what kind of God you serving that allows your son to be taken like that, or you not watching him? I was like, there's something going on, and then you realize, like, okay, and then you just do more research on the spirit behind Islam. It's like, okay, because I see where it comes from. Like somebody probably got a hold of them in a mosque, and then it's downhill from there. So it's unfortunate, just like how kids get taken advantage of in the camp.
Yeah. It anywhere where that spirit can be anywhere.
And that's why, like, I'm personally on the defense of, like, and whoever's gonna watch this that is of that ilk, just know that, like, hey, man, you do what you want to do in your private time in your bedroom. I don't, whoever you want to. That's your business. But don't feel like you need to impose that, on our people, our nation, who have the belief in Torah, because that's not how it's supposed to roll. That's not how it goes. You set your future bloodlines up for death, and really, what you're doing, you're saying, I want to be extinct. That's what you're saying when you do that type of lifestyle. You say, I want to be extinct. Like all the money, the effort, the time, the love that your parents gave you, if you were fortunate enough to have that type of home, you just said, I don't want to, have a future progenitor of my bloodline. And, I think this is good. Your family made it through roughly 5,000 to 7,000 years of human existence, and it stops with you. Like, I guess that's it. I mean, it is what it is. But, like, just keep that to yourself, because, I ain't running up in your bedroom saying that, hey, you shouldn't be putting that where you putting it. So, it is what it is. But let's move on to the final question, and this will, wrap up this lesson. What act of obedience certified Abraham's covenant with Yahuwah? It's kind of brutal, but it kind of it was necessary, but there's also health benefits to it. But yeah, it's kind of reminded that Yahuwah, sometimes it's necessary to have that. I guess you would say pound of flesh. I'll go
Are you
ahead.
talking about the circumcision, or are you talking about when?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and get these last 6. I ain't read yet, but Genesis 17.
I don't mind reading.
Who's got their TV on in the background or something? YouTube.
That's my son. It's my son.
Okay. You want to say?
Let me mute myself. I was gonna read, but is it too loud?
I'll get this, but then like if you wanna maybe bring out another verse or something after that, you can, or and then we'll wrap it up because this is the short and sweet to the point. It's just basically like I said, the lesson is about just holding steadfast to your faith because you know time moves a lot slower for us, but it moves a lot quicker for the Most High. And what feels like an eternity for him, for us, is like 2 minutes for him. But I'm gonna read 21 through 27 of Genesis 17. But my covenant will I establish with Yitzhak or Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with them. And Elohim went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael and his son, and 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 that were born in the house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as Elohim had said unto him. And Abraham was 99 years old, 99 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the self same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael, his son, and all the men of his house, born in the house, and bought with the money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. So that's interesting. Like if you were a male and you were just out, tilling the fields, yeah, you got to get it too, to remain underneath the covenant and the protection of Yahuwah. And I'm sure there was some sort of spiritual benefit for those who were just like servants of Abraham at that time, helping him tend to his livestock and his land after they received their circumcision, because it kept them protected probably from raids from other nations or bandits and things of that nature too. But it's interesting that even though, like in the modern day, we hear from celebrities and sometimes people who have achieved great things that they make a Faustian bargain or a deal with the devil. And when you do that, there's sometimes a pound of flesh, the term is called, that is required, in order to receive whatever it is that you bargain for. Well, it's interesting that it's no different for Yahuwah. Yahuwah is like, hey, you know what? We've been talking about this. It's 25 years almost have passed. It's about time for you to really establish and certify this covenant that I said I was going to make with you. Do this. And now I'm pretty sure it was a little painful, but I'm pretty sure they had ways to dull that area before they did the procedure. But also in doing that, it showed one, obedience, and two, there's actual a modern day scientific health benefit to having a circumcised area as a man. It helps prevent disease and things of that nature. And I imagine that was probably part of the reason why he probably couldn't conceive. Because like once he had that circumcision, it said he easily conceived Isaac. It wasn't any struggle after that point. So, just keeping obedience and sometimes enduring pain when necessary, to Yah's will. It comes out with ultimate benefits in the end. And now, in the modern day, Abraham has more descendants than he could ever count. So and I'd say that's pretty much it for the lesson. Does anybody else want to share anything real quick? Or maybe another scripture if they have it. But the moral of this lesson is just believe and be patient. Wait on Yahuwah. For what seems like several decades for us is literally just a snap of his fingers for Yahuwah. So that's all I got for this lesson. And then we'll continue on with the next lesson that talks about the trials that Isaac would have to deal with upon his birth.
I just on I think I'm good actually. No. Sorry. I thought I had something, but it's gone.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Well, if no one has anything, we'll just go ahead and get to the our closing scriptures, our mottos, just to remind us of, the daily walk that we have, in this truth, and just continue to encourage each other to know that what we're doing is not in vain, and it will lead to a great blessing, or uh, uh, the reaping of what the covenant that Abraham started will end with us, when that appointed time comes. So, all right. Who wants to get this one? I know anybody can. I know Isaiah can probably get this. Who wants to get the closing statements, and then I'll read it as a whole once he gets the answers correct. What's Isaiah doing? Is he coughing? He can't talk?
I can get it.
All right. Dang, man, you sound like very white.
All right, it's let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and guard his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Here's the patience of the Kodashim. Here are they that guard the commandments of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha.
Congratulations. Give that man a slushie. Or bake. But yeah, so there you have it. I'll read it one more time just for GP. And 1, 2, 3, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and guard his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For Elohim shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. And that was from Ecclesiastes 12, 13 through 14. And then here is the patience of the Kodashim. Here are they that guard the commandments of Yahuwah and the belief of Yahusha. Revelation 14:12. So there you go. We hit you from the Old and the New Testament for those who are still somewhat struggling with keeping the law, statute, and commandments. It's possible to do, and it's an easy burden. It gives you step-by-step instruction for those who are looking to really perfect their walk with Mashiach. Well, these are the steps to do so. And you start with the first 5 books, which we are going through in our line-by-line series. I hope you guys have been enjoying it as we've been going through this journey. It's been interesting for me because, some of the stories I've been reading lately, I've heard, growing up in the Christian church, but we just didn't touch on it for whatever reason. But now it's nice to be going through it as a group to get other inputs from all of my Cody and our Yaladim on just what the Most High meant in these instructions. Like, it's one thing to read it by itself, which we should all be doing, but it's another thing to help get insights and perspectives from all of us in the assembly who have different life experiences that can help point out situations that would mirror what we go through here in the modern day and how to perfect our walk in Mashiach. But this was a good lesson, short but sweet. I'd encourage you, if you got the energy or the time, go take a nice walk. There's a place I'm gonna go to see if I can get some wild grapes. Hopefully they're still there and not shriveled up. But I hope you guys enjoyed the lesson, and thanks for attending. Shalom, shalom.
Oh, real quick, I'm sorry. I kind of got what I was trying to say earlier. I think that with Abraham, and I guess all the men that in his household finally getting circumcised, it might have been, it might have been kind of a signifier of them aligning themselves to obey the Most High and what he had for them, I guess. And maybe that, and of course, the Most High's ways are above our ways and his thoughts are above our thoughts, But I think that may have been kind of why, not for sure, I'm not trying to put a doctrine out there. Maybe that's why after he got circumcised, he was able to conceive with Sarah. Besides, I guess, the Most High saying so himself, that's how that would work, I guess. because he didn't seem to have any trouble conceiving with Hagar, of course, with Ishmael, coming from their union. But the covenant was with Abraham and Sarah. Sarai, I guess, Sarah. Yeah, no, Sarah. So, I mean, if that makes sense, I'm sorry, it was kind of a stream of consciousness
No,
sentence
I
there.
get it.
That's real good. That makes and it makes total sense, right? Like
Mm.
there's conception within the blessing of Yule, and then there's not. And then if you have it, then from that comes, even more blessings. So that makes total sense. But even Yahuwah, he still kept his word in terms of what he established in the book of what the firstborn is to receive, but he just didn't give Ishmael the covenant. He still blessed him. He just didn't give him the covenant. But yeah, you're correct too with that as well.
Mm. So, yeah, that was all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And well, if that's it, I'll stop recording and then we'll just pray it out. Let's see. And where is it?